the main function of the tool is to allow people, to allow businesses to calculate their carbon footprint, taking into account the energy bills that they currently have. So just a quick reminder of this West Midlands Manufacturing Energy Evidence Gathering sessions that are organized by the region, so West Midlands region, with the intention to feed the information back to the government. So these are happening as we speak. So if you haven't had a chance to join any of these sessions, these are the remaining ones. You can also send your comments by email. And at the bottom of this slide, there's a form which you can fill in. That information is completely anonymous, so it's confidential, but it's then fed back to the government with a view to actually secure some more support for the businesses in the West Midlands. This it's actually the mayor of the West Midlands and the street who is behind this whole initiative. So carbon footprint, what do we currently take into account? There are plenty of things depending which scope we are looking at. On our program, on the low carbon SME program, we have focused on scope 1 and scope 2. Most of the time it's electricity and gas, but in some instances we have also included fuel, diesel, and on some very rare occasions, water and water treatment, even though water is, I would say, poorly accounted for in the calculation at the moment, because we're fortunate enough to have plenty of water. I'm sure if one day we start experimenting serious droughts, not sure, then this will change. The way the carbon footprint is calculating is actually slightly changing every year. So every year the government is actually issuing new conversion factors. So if you have the same consumption year 2021 and redo your calculation in 2022, your result will be slightly different. That's also take into account how much renewable energies we have in the country, and what actually is or becomes critical. On our program, we haven't taken into account scope 3. Not many companies do it at the moment, but there's also a very big potential to reduce your impact on scope 3, which is like we show here, the business trips, waste management, but can also take into account where your company is actually placing their finances, their savings, which bank they're working with. So the reason why we do this is because it's the right thing to do, because we want to be a good company in the community, but also because we have to. So there's a target to be carbon neutral by 2050. That's written in the law, in the Climate Change Act 2008. So it is actually mandatory for companies to do something. And we cannot just wait for 2050 to happen. So we need to have a clear path. And the right way to do this is to establish where we are at the moment and then monitor the progress. It's what we've tried to do with our low carbon SME program. So having a clear calculation of your carbon footprint now is something that you can monitor. You can monitor the progress. So that's why we have helped SMEs in the West Midlands and the Black Country for the last 5 years. And as a legacy, we have developed this online tool. So that's the website address where you can actually create an account. What is important is once you have created your username and email address, that's something you will not be able to change in the future. So just keep this in mind. First step is actually to create your account. And then you get to the dashboard where you see these 3 sections at the moment. This is subject to change. We may add some more functionalities, but at the moment, yeah, you have your user details, low carbon maturity matrix, and carbon footprint calculator. I will probably blank off all my details, or I should have chosen wiser when I fill this in, because I don't really want this to be, but anyway, that's what it is at the moment. So you have your company details or your user details when you register. When you edit them, sorry, I'll go for, yeah, I'll come back to that later. So that's what I just explained. The three main functions we currently have. So when you create your user and company profile, you actually enter that information. When you edit the information, you can add some more details in your profile. Yeah, that's it really. I think that's really straightforward. Then the low carbon maturity matrix. It looks like a long-winded, painful exercise, but the result is interesting. It's the spider matrix that we saw earlier. We'll see it again. It's actually a visual document that you can share with your customers, with your stakeholders, to show them what is your current position on specific topics and where you're aiming to. So it works by filling in that long questionnaire. So the questions you will go through are policy and strategy, from well, it's a color scale, so having no energy policy at all, up to being completely top of your class, with an active commitment from top, a system that is being regularly reviewed, and a strategy that is really embedded in your organization. So all these questions, we've got policy and strategy, responsibility and accountability, regulatory compliance. If your company is already accredited ISO 14001 or on the way to doing it, that's probably something that you already have in place. So it's much quicker to actually answer these questions. I really insist on one thing. It looks like a desktop exercise, but that really needs commitment from top management. So if you've been nominated to actually do this for your company, make sure that top management is actually buying into this, or that you have the responsibility and accountability to do it. That's just only for you to monitor. So other questions we have, it's performance and review, whether your current system is being audited or not, improvement investment. So if you actually use your money towards carbon neutral goals, how well your task force and your employees and possibly your whole supply chain are actually aware that you are doing this, that you are on a path to carbon zero. Communication reporting, operation control, design, change management. As I explained, this is actually to establish a starting point, which you can then review on a regular basis. Procurement, monitoring, and measurement, and auditing of the whole system. And this is the graph that it produces. So I'm not too happy with the colors, but in black and white, it looks great, which is also important. If you need to print this, you need to have that sort of contrast in black and white. So this is really the first part of our online tool. And that will be integrated in a report later on that you can actually share with your stakeholders. So that's a function that I already listed as a missing on our online tool at the moment, which we will look into adding in the future. Obviously, the interesting thing for people is the calculation of the carbon footprint. That's something that we have done for you on our program. That we have updated for some companies who send us who sent us their latest energy bills. So we have done it with an Excel chart. Here we're looking at providing companies with an online tool that will allow them to do it themselves, and then monitor progress over time. And as I said, issue print reports that they can actually save and share. So it all starts with creating your site and for that specific report. So you enter the report here. The site structure is quite flexible. So you have the company, that's your account. Then for one given company, you can on that system you can cascade it down to several sites, and even for each site you can identify several buildings, so it can be fairly detailed. At this moment in time, the information is not copied down automatically, so that's also on my snag list for the developers. So we're going to work on this. To make sure that you don't need to re-enter that information every single time. So in that part, you define your site. You need, I actually missed in my presentation. So for each site, you will define also what sort of energies you are using. I will show you, well, once I've finished that PowerPoint presentation, we do a live example rather than actually switching back from the PowerPoint presentation and the website, because I think that will ruin the whole thing. So you can also, at this moment in time, you can already add or document your annual turnover for that reporting period. So here, for example, for the year 2021, this later on can be used to factor your activity in the calculation, because it's easy to understand that if your activity is increasing, one would expect that your carbon footprint can also increase, and likewise if it's reducing. Something that we have included in our Excel calculations on the program is also something that is called degree heating days, which is actually reflecting how much heat you would need depending on the weather conditions. So that's not a straightforward calculation. We will look into possibly including this in that tool, but it's not the case at the moment. Because obviously with global warming, one positive side of global warming is that we need less heating. So you would expect your, for example, gas consumption to reduce over time if it's getting warmer. So on that page, you can enter you don't have to, but you can enter your turnover. You can enter your annual spending for electricity and gas, and you can add all your consumption. These come directly from your energy bills, so make sure you enter them in the right unit. So here it's kilowatt hour, which does appear on your bills. Sometimes your gas consumption can be in cubic meters, but there is usually also a column where it's translated or converted into kilowatt hours. So make sure you enter that information correctly, otherwise the calculation will be incorrect. Once you've entered all the information, you click on, you save it, obviously, you click on the result, result link at the top, and you get your calculation. That's it, really. So let me just switch to an online example, or shall I finish this first? Does anyone have any questions so far? No questions? Okay. Do you have any question? No question from Madiba. So again, I remind this, we are going to share that presentation and the printout. Just to finish on the PowerPoint presentation, because we are currently wrapping up our program, so we're finishing on Tuesday next week, end of February. If you have any further question concerning our program, you can contact Professor Prasanta Day, who's been managing the program. Any further support for SMEs, you can contact RKE at aston.co.uk. Here at the bottom, you've got our two links, which we will keep updated. Yeah, that's it. So let's finish sharing this, and I'm going to share my where's my screen? So we switch now to just a presentation of the actual page. So I've created my user, login, and this is basically what I showed during the presentation. So you can edit your company information, number of employees. These are all questions that we did ask during your registration. That is what my matrix result would look like online. So as I explained, we are looking into integrating this in a proper report that people can print. And so here, the inner graph is the current position. So it's a poor example because I used Aston University, which obviously is not the case. We are aiming for much more than this, but as I said, this is very important to get top management to buy into this, and they would have most likely they would have a different view on than just other people. To come back, you just click on my dashboard here at the very top left, carbon footprint calculator. Again, that's a bug in the system. You can enter year 203. So we're going to add a function, so the ability to delete wrong entries or correct them. Well, obviously here I could actually change it to 2023, but we don't have the data yet. So if I save this, come back, hopefully it should be in the right order. Yes, so we've got 2021, yeah. And so here, 2021. So these are actually real values from a manufacturing company in the West Midlands. So it's not Aston University. I can go and edit the site. I'm going to create a new report just to show you. Print. So if I do this, for example, here I've only entered the year. So as you can save the year, I can create the site. Address, I'm going to enter again Aston Triangle. That's where we are based. Sector, education. And that's the Aston Business School where we are based. So here you select which energy sources you want to document. So let's go for natural gas, for example. You can add some more, like I'm going to add grid electricity. At this moment in time, if you add, it's great. You cannot delete them. So that's also in my list of things to do for our contractor. Most people would actually get their bills monthly and use 1 meter. I think that's a bug as well. Let me write this down. Because you cannot have -1 meter, obviously. Does that? Let's try to save it just to check. Yeah, okay. So it does accept this. So that's wrong. So if you have several meters, you can document several meters. Most of the time, if you have a smart meter, you will get complete information. And this. So here it's also asking for this. So we're going to correct this. So let me just add just anything. Water. And for example, water treatment. Where's my water treatment? It's not coming up. That's a bug. Just keep in mind that this is a beta testing version at the moment, so we are still working on this. Can save, yes. So now it's all saved. I've defined my site. I'm not going to add any more building, and then that's where I can then enter my information. So let's go for £1 million a year. 20,000 pounds for gas. As universities, expenses are actually much higher than this. And then here you can just add your data. I should have prepared something. Natural gas. Let's go. Oops. Let's just take it slowly down because we're expecting, let's say we stop the heating, but we just only have hot water. And for electricity, let's just do flat out. This is a very steady company with reduction of activity in the summer. It's completely unrealistic, but it is an example. And then I mentioned earlier conversion factors, so that would be a fake example for 2023. The conversion factors are added in the background with an administrator profile, so that's not something you have to worry about. That's something we will look after, which would be updated every year. Why do I have 0? Did I not save it? Yes, I did save it. Ooh, I know why. Sorry. I know why. It's because I have not entered the conversion factors yet for 2023. So let's modify this. And now that's bad. Let's save that again. Yes. So yeah, I have entered the conversion factors for 2022, but not 2023. So that would be our result. Which happens to be a duplicate, then I should have a duplicate information in this here. This is strange now. Well, let's just leave it like this. At this moment in time, I'm experimenting with the system. I'm documenting a snag list for our contractor. So they are going to keep working on the system even though we're finishing on Tuesday next week. In my future job, I'm likely to use this tool. So we will keep working with the university here on developing this to make it available for companies. What is important is that this tool at the moment is free of charge, and that's how we're planning to keep it. So I'm just going to finish sharing. No, stop sharing. So we have a bit more people. We have a few more people on the call now. So are there any comments or suggestions at this stage or questions?
John, Robert raised his hands earlier. Perhaps you didn't notice that. So please address, Robert, you can ask a question.
Yes, hi, Jean-Luc. I'm a apology initially to say I'm sorry I missed the first few minutes of your presentation.
That's okay.
And I just wondered if you could run over again for me and perhaps a couple of other people who are a little bit late. What are you trying to achieve with this site? I can see it looks very useful actually, but in terms of what practical outcomes and so on, what's the objective here?
This is really a tool for businesses to allow them to calculate their carbon footprint and to have to monitor that progress the progress of their journey towards net zero. It's something that we have done on our low carbon SME program because it was part of the whole project. So we help businesses with that sort of diagnostic and also some funding. So for us, it was a mandatory requirement. But increasingly, businesses, so depending what your sector of activity is, there's an increasing demand for businesses to share that sort of information with their customers. I've worked with some companies in the West Midlands. They deliver to big buyers who expect their suppliers to have a plan to reduce their carbon footprint, because your carbon footprint, the one that you calculate for your scope 1 and scope 2, which is your direct energy consumption, this will be scope 3 for your customers in the supply chain. So let me come back to my presentation. Work. Let me come back to this. So you can see here on the right, we have scope 3. It's not something that we have considered in our calculations during the lifetime of our low carbon SME program, but that is something that you can take into account if you ask your supplier to share with you their current carbon footprint. That's your supply chain, but that's upstream, so your suppliers, but also downstream, your waste management. So our online tool is, as we call it, is a tool. It's a way for you to calculate your carbon footprint. There are obviously other tools. You can also use an Excel chart if you prefer. Here, where we actually add value to the system is that we make sure that you use the correct conversion factors that come from the official government website. So these are updated every year. So if you use the same chart year 2021 and year 2022 and so on, if you don't update your conversion factors, your calculation will be incorrect.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Much appreciated.
And yeah, and that's also an important addition to this slide. It is mandatory to become. It is written in the UK law that we need to be carbon neutral by 2050. So we cannot just wait until very last moment to do something. And that's not what the whole community is expecting. So, as I said, your customers at some point will ask for this. Your stakeholders, it's also very important. It is becoming increasingly important for your staff as well, because everyone hears about global warming. So it is shown that companies who have a clear path have a good impact on their workforce. It helps to actually retain staff, to attract new people. So you can just live outside the real world. You have to do this.
Yeah, thank you. That's much appreciated.
Any other question?
John, I have an observation here. We are measuring only scope 1 through this tool. Could our tool be used for measuring scope 2 and scope 3? And if it is yes, how?
Yeah, so in the energy sources that we already list, we do include water, we do include water treatment, we do include waste, and that's something. If I log into the admin side of the tool, I can actually add more, more energy or more resources. So that's something we can complete in the future. I don't want to log into it now because plenty of fake entries. So it looks a bit like a mess, and so it's something that I've already reported this to our contractor. So we need to tidy up and make sure we can keep this updated very much easier.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also something that we need to consider is electricity that companies would actually generate themselves from solar panels, for example, because the calculation is quite straightforward for grid electricity, which is what we have done on our low carbon SME program. If your electricity is from renewable sources, the conversion factor will be different. So when we add this to our tool, it will come with a warning. So it's really important to enter the information about your site correctly in the first place.
So scope 2 emission is already been incorporated because we are using different conversion factor depending on what sort of energy sources we are using. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. At this moment in time, on the report, when you look at your total carbon footprint on the report, we only display a total. We already had on our program, we had companies requesting a split between scope 1 and scope 2. So that's something we did manually. The online tool at the moment is not doing this.
One thing I like to really mention again, you all can comment that this tool enable us to measure the current state of CO2 emission. And it could really be done for any process, facilities, product, and that depending on how we measure it. Now the question is, measurement will not make any sense unless we work towards reducing it. And the thing is, in our project, what we did, we then set up our targets to reduce. And then we try to determine that the enablers, which will help us to reduce it. And we calculate the business model. We derive the business model, capital cost, return on investment, and other things, and then go for the procurement and make it happen. Embed the amendments And then again, we try to measure after some time that where the carbon footprint is. So we estimate carbon footprint reduction. We enable through intervention, and then again we go back and see that whether this has been done. So that's our complete process. So my second question is, how do we incorporate the next part of it? I know that in the first phase we don't have that part to include. So if we like to really do it within this module, how do we really do that? Or will it be too difficult to incorporate it in near future?
Well, the short answer is it really depends on how much resources you want to put on this. Because on the market at the moment, there are similar tools which are more advanced, let's be honest, but you have a whole team behind them. Yes, that's exactly what we did with our program. We did a calculation. We spoke. We visited companies. We spoke with them. Suggested some measures. We helped them to actually implement these measures. That's actually we did this through face-to-face discussions and actually speaking with people. The existing tools on the market at the moment there are some. Yeah, I could name some if you wanted. There's like Zeller, which is quite popular. GB Slep are still offering free licenses for 1 year with Zeller. Zeller will come up with standard suggestions like have you looked at LED? Have you considered solar PV installation? These measures, or like replacing your old compressor, replacing old machinery, looking at your heating, your waste heat recovery systems. These are pretty much standard solutions that can be suggested to anyone. A physical visit to a site or a more advanced approach allows to really target the right measures. For example, if you're renting an office space, yeah, you can do LED lighting because yeah, you're going to get a payback very quickly on this. So it's worth investing, even though it's not your own place. But obviously, if you're renting an office space in a shared building, you cannot do solar PV. So a system that would automatically suggest solar PV, it's not really good. Something that we could add on this tool is a sort of contact form where people could suggest or request some further support. So at least that would allow us university to gather that sort of information and then possibly consider either through KTP projects or through other programs. Something could be done in the future. In my presentation, I included this West Midlands Industrial Energy Task Force. I really insist on this because that's the best way at the moment to feed that information back to central government and the people who are behind it. There's Andy Street, but other people as a team, and they are really passionate about supporting companies, especially in the West Midlands. So I do apologize for everyone else. We here, I mean, that program is really focusing on the West Midlands and trying to look at how they could actually get that money from central government allocated to the West Midlands and actually help businesses here. They have already secured some funding, which will allow some technical support to be extended. Obviously, well, it's not going to help us because we are finishing now, but there's an open bid. There's a bid open at the moment for other organizations like us who carry on. They can actually go and grab that money. So some money has already been allocated. It's much less than was asked for initially. It's only for technical support. It's not for grants. It's not for financial support. But this task force, they are still working towards getting some more funding from central government allocated to the West Midlands and to help businesses here, because there are a lot of SMEs in the West Midlands. And that's why I really enjoyed working on that program, because there are some amazing companies around Birmingham and in the Black Country, providing you actually, and some do quite well because they're on a niche market. And yeah, that's why we need to support them. They account for a large quantities of jobs, and the West Midlands are still like the core area for manufacturing in the UK. Do we have any more questions?
Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more comments? No. So we have recorded this session, which we're going to share on our YouTube channel. We're going to also share the presentation with all the people who registered some interest. As I explained in the presentation, if you have any question in the future, you can contact Professor Prasanta Day, and also that RKE at aston.co.uk. So sorry, aston.ac.uk, which is for further business support from Aston University. My personal email address will still be working, because I'm going to stay at Aston University in a slightly different job, but also equally exciting, as energy project engineer for Aston University, with an ambitious target to reduce energy consumption for the whole campus. And believe me, it's much higher than the figures than the fake figures I entered earlier in the form. So there's significant saving that can be achieved. Do we have any question? Any last minute questions? Comments from Adiba, Mark? No.
I think that's yeah, Mark, you wanted to say something. Go on, please.
Thank you very much, Jean-Luc, for that explanation of the tool. Hopefully it will prove to be useful for businesses going forwards. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so it's a very good information on that, and we are in the same place, so I will catch up with you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, if that's it, we're going to wrap up. Thank you very much for attending, and I think one very important lesson to learn from our low carbon SME program is now is the best way to implement any measures. We have seen by recalculating some of the carbon footprint for some companies that yes, our funding did help them, was probably triggered some measures, so some actions for them. But with the cost of energies going up, which is still, well, the market, the energy market at the moment is quite volatile, goes up and down, but the general trend is still going up. So any measures you introduce now, you will get some payback. So if you have the funds to do it, don't wait for a grant, just do it, because now is the right time to do it. I'm obviously not talking about massive project like a big scale solar PV installation, but the payback on LED lighting, on an air compressor, on some heating measures is straightforward, and it will be less than 3 years. So do it because it's the right thing to do. That's it for me. Thank you very much for attending this session, and yeah, see you soon.